Anna suggests that President Donald Trump still has a tight hold on the GOP.
It comes as the president is urging Republican-led states to redraw congressional districts to gain an edge in this fall's midterms after a recent Supreme Court decision kicked off a new chapter in the redistricting race. At least 5 Republican state senators were ousted by Trump-backed challengers yesterday. The renewed push comes after the Supreme Court narrowed protections for minority voters, potentially paving the way for the elimination of black majority districts that often favor Democrats.
GOP-led states like South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, and Louisiana have launched redistricting efforts since the Supreme Court's ruling, joining 8 other states, both red and blue, that pursued new maps prior to last week's election or decision. Republicans have a slight edge in the redistricting race right now, but Democrats have made gains in recent special elections.
And today, South Carolina House members signed an agreement that could keep lawmakers in Columbia even longer with the goal of redistricting.
Our Nate Stanley has been tracking this from the start. And Nate, the big question everyone is asking is, will South Carolina redraw its map?
Well, Nigel, that is the golden question. If I had a crystal ball, I probably couldn't give you a straight answer. A lot still up in the air. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle have raised concerns over redistricting. Regardless, if lawmakers were to come back to Columbia to discuss this topic, it would be a historic and likely long process.
Up until a few days ago, I would have said that South Carolina was not likely to be involved in the push for midterm redistricting, which is very unusual.
So by a vote of 12-2, the bill is given a favorable report as amended.
A fast-changing landscape at the South Carolina State House. On Wednesday, a sine-die agreement was approved by a House Rules Committee that would bring lawmakers back to Columbia after the session adjourns. The sole purpose is redistricting. This comes after pressure from President Donald Trump following a decision from the U.S. Supreme Court that lets Louisiana redraw its map.
It's actually looking like it may well happen, that discussion will happen. If that discussion happens, that doesn't guarantee that there will be redistricting. It means they will try to find a map that they would approve in the sine die session.
Lynn Teague with the South Carolina League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan voter rights organization, says redistricting is a double-edged sword for the Republican leaders pushing for it.
You may make CD6 more competitive for Republicans. At the same time, there's no way to do that without making adjacent districts more competitive for Democrats.
She worries that redistricting could impact voter turnout.
We are concerned that voters will be discouraged, will believe the maps have been further rigged, will believe that it's not worth voting.
And even with a sine-die agreement, Teague says anything can happen.
Things can change very soon. They may take a vote on that rules amendment to the sine die resolution in the House later today or tomorrow. We don't know. So those of us who are deeply concerned about these issues are just going to be spending a lot of time down there talking to people.
And Nate, we're just weeks away from the June primary elections. How could redistricting impact those races?
Well, that's another question that lawmakers still haven't made any decisions on just yet. The concerns there, if someone is running for a race and there were to be a redrawn district, there's a chance that they might not live in that district anymore or be eligible to run in that original district. Today, Spartanburg Senator Josh Kimbrell did propose a budget proviso that would move the primary election from June to August. Again, there hasn't been any movement on that just yet. And Lynn Teague, who you just heard from, said that right now South Carolina is already beginning the process of printing the ballots. So that is something that South Carolina lawmakers will also have to address. Again, this is an ever-evolving process. The Senate will likely take up this resolution tomorrow. Of course, the most up-to-date information you can find here on air and online at WYFF4.com. Back to you.